Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reisch of Crime Talk, the most unbiased and fact-driven channel on YouTube. Today, Chief Eddie Gallagher is now a petty officer, judges gone wild, and we answer the question that you all want to know: why has Nicole Kessinger not been charged? Let's talk about it. Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reisch of Crime Talk, and thank you for tuning in and liking and subscribing to our channel. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. If you like the video, hit that little like button. And if you want to be notified of any new content that we put out, whether it's a video or we go live, hit that little bell so that you receive notifications. First thing on the docket is the case of Chief Eddie Gallagher. Oops. Now we have to call him Petty Officer Gallagher. Members of the jury also imposed a confinement punishment that the prosecutor did not even ask for. Now Petty Officer Gallagher was sentenced to 4 months in the brig. However, he had 260 days of pre-sentence confinement credit, so it is all but a wash. So whether you are for Chief Gallagher or against him, either way, it's over. The next matter on the docket is a case of judges gone wild. This should also go into the category of you simply cannot make this stuff up. So here we have a story of Judge Andrew Adams. He is 47 and now faces 2 counts of level 6 felonies of battery in connection with a May 1st shooting. He also faces 4 misdemeanor battery charges and 1 count of misdemeanor disorderly conduct. Judge Adams' trials and tribulations began when he was attending, get this, a judicial conference with other judges. Apparently, Judge Adams and a Judge Brad Jacobs decided to go out to a strip club, which was apparently closed. What's the next best thing when the gentleman's club is closed? You go to the White Castle. Well, apparently at the White Castle, a confrontation ensued, and ultimately both judges wound up being shot. Apparently, while the judges were at the White Castle, a third judge arrived, a Crawford County Judge Sabrina Bell. And they were apparently standing near a building when an SUV parked nearby and 2 men left the vehicle. The 4 men engaged in some sort of physical fight, investigators allege, and it's still unclear as to the motive. The prosecutors have been very tight-lipped about what started this. They say because they did not want the investigation tainted. I would contend that it has to do with the fact that you had judges who are being investigated and they're being very tight-lipped. It's alleged that during the struggle, one man raised his knees, apparently pulled a gun from his waistband, and shot Adams in the stomach. Nearby, Judge Jacobs and another man were wrestling. Apparently, then the other man held on to Jacobs, police alleged, when the shooter walked up to Jacobs and shot him in the chest. After Jacobs went to the ground, another man held him down while the shooter held the gun against Jacobs' chest and shot again. The 2 men drove away, leaving the judges behind. Today, July 3rd, Judge Jacobs appeared in court in Marion County for his initial hearing. Judge Clark faces 2 counts of level 6 felony battery in connection with this May 1 shooting. He also faces 4 misdemeanors, battery charges, and 1 count of disorderly conduct. A plea of not guilty was entered today, and a pretrial conference was scheduled for August 7th. Judge Adams was indicted last week along with 2 other men, and Alfredo Vasquez, 24, he faces 6 counts of low-level felony and misdemeanor charges, including 2 counts of level 6 battery. And a Brandon Kaiser, 41, faces 14 counts, including 8 felony charges, 4 of which are level 3 felonies and aggravated assault. Brad Jacobs, the other Clark County judge who was shot in the incident, was not charged. Apparently, separate grand juries were walled off so that the witnesses could all testify and not have to worry about any witness taint or tampering. Hence the reason why the good judge may have been charged. This is going to be interesting to watch. It also shows that no matter who you are, how good of life you supposedly are involved in, trouble can happen to just about anyone. Now, I would venture to guess the good judges may have been partaking of alcohol and poor decisions were made. This story also confirms a theory that I have had for many, many years, that the reason why people go to conventions is to go do things that they could not do at home. It's unlikely the good judge would be able to go to the gentleman's club at home, let alone hang out at the White Castle at 3 a.m., probably intoxicated. Now, obviously, all parties are presumed innocent, and we will see how this shakes out. The next matter on the docket today has to do with a question that we put out on our community page regarding the Watts case. What question, as we approach nearly the 1-year anniversary of the deaths of Shanann Watts, Bella, and Celeste, and the unborn child? Overwhelmingly, the greatest question was, why has Nicole Kessinger not been charged? I am here to answer that question. We have all of the interviews that have been conducted by the police with Ms. Kessinger. We've also talked about the interview that she did with the local Channel 7 news channel here. She denies knowing anything that took place related to Shanann and the kids. Bottom line, short of Nicole Kessinger admitting that she helped plan or knew what was going to take place and then helped try to cover it up for Christopher Watts, it is unlikely and impossible that she will be charged. Let's talk about what the prosecutor would have to prove, and you can decide whether they think there's enough evidence. So in all criminal cases, the person that is charged with actually doing the act is referred to as the principal. The principle of first-degree murder is that they would have to prove that the defendant, the person charged, not someone to look like them, not someone using their identity, but that particular defendant, knowingly took the life of another person without legal justification after deliberation. There's no evidence that Nicole Kessinger did any of that. Absolutely nothing. An alternative theory for prosecution for Nicole Kessinger would be that she was a complicitor. A complicitor is someone that aids, encourages, or embeds somebody in the commission of an offense. Frankly, there is not any evidence that I have seen, whether it be through interviews or other evidence, that would suggest that she did that. Now let's talk about the legal definition of complicity that a district attorney would have to prove and a jury would have to decide if this took place. So we're looking at the Colorado criminal jury instructions. We'll read it verbatim. Complicity is not a separate crime. Rather, it is a legal theory by which the defendant may be found guilty of a crime that was committed by another person. For a defendant to be guilty as a complicitor of the crime of first-degree murder, as defined at the end of this instruction, the prosecution must prove each of the following conditions beyond a reasonable doubt. Another person committed the crime of first-degree murder as defined at the end of this instruction, and the defendant, with the desire or the purpose or design to aid, abet, advise, or encourage the other person in planning or committing that crime. The defendant was aware of all of the elements of that crime as defined at the end of this instruction. Or the alternative would be the defendant was aware of the elements numbers identifying the appropriate elements, examples 1, 2, and 4, of the crime as defined at the end of this instruction. And the defendant's conduct was not legally authorized by the affirmative defense in instruction blank. For the purpose of this instruction, another person committed the crime of first-degree murder if the prosecution proves each of the following elements beyond a reasonable doubt. that the other person in the state of Colorado at or about the date and place charged, and then we would insert the elements of first-degree murder. And then it says, after considering all of the evidence, if you decide the prosecution has proven each of the conditions of complicity liability beyond a reasonable doubt, you should find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder. After considering all the evidence, if you decide the prosecution has failed to prove one or more of the conditions of complicity liability beyond a reasonable doubt, you should find the defendant not guilty. So what does complicity really mean? What does aid, abet, advised, or encouraged another person to commit a crime? Exactly what it means. That person has to actually say, you should go do something. You should go do murder. You should go commit bank robbery. You should go commit any crime. Let me tell you how to do it. Let me tell you where to go. Let me tell you how to get away with it. That would be a complicitor. There's been nothing other than speculation to say that Nicole Kessinger encouraged Christopher Watts to kill his wife and children. Perhaps there were conversations that said, boy, it would be a lot easier if your wife wasn't here. It gets so complicated with the kids. Wow. That is not complicity. That is thinking out loud. That is simply talking about what would happen in a perfect world. It is not telling somebody to go commit a crime, okay? Now, the other possible theory of prosecution that one would possibly consider in a case like this against Nicole Kessinger, but once again, I don't believe that it is there. And that would be an accessory to a crime. And once again, so we're not taken out of context, let's read straight from the jury instruction that would be required for an accessory. The elements of the crime of accessory to a crime are that the defendant, in the state of Colorado, at or about the date and place charged, with intent to hinder, delay, or prevent the discovery, detection, apprehension, prosecution, conviction, or punishment of another for the commission of a crime, rendered assistance to the other person, and then if there's an affirmative defense and the defendant's conduct was not legally authorized by the affirmative defense. And once again, after considering all the evidence, if you decide the prosecution has proven each and every element, you should find the defendant guilty. And the last paragraph is, if you decide the prosecution has failed to prove each and every element of the offense, you should find the defendant not guilty of accessory to crime. The reason why Ms. Kessinger could not be charged with this is that she didn't do anything with the intent to hinder, delay, or prevent the discovery, detection, apprehension, prosecution, conviction, or punishment of another person. For that to take place, Chris Watts would have had to have gone to her and said, I killed my wife and children. Please hide me. Please help me get out of the state. Please do something. Being evasive, maybe not providing all the information that you wished she had, or even provided information that's contradictory. She may not know that. She may not be lying. She could be mistaken. That's what her reality is at that particular moment. So she did nothing to delay the arrest or prosecution of Chris Watts based upon her conduct. And frankly, based upon those interviews, I think she was so desperate to get out of this situation and try to remove herself from this situation that had Chris Watts, in fact, confessed to her, she would have said so and obviously gone to the police to save herself. So I know a lot of people don't like that answer. I know a lot of people would be upset by it and say, but what about this? And yes, you're right. But here I've given you the instructions of law, what the prosecution would have to prove. You can't charge somebody just because you think they've done something and we'll sort it out. When the DAs file charges, they have to say at that time, both legally and ethically, that they believe they can prove that case beyond a reasonable doubt. Based upon what I have seen, I don't believe Nicole Kessinger is ever going to be charged. Thank you for watching this edition of Crime Talk. there are a lot of changes coming here real soon. I'll have more information for you next week, but we want to keep everyone happy that likes Crime Talk, and we want to be able to bring you even more information, but we want to keep Crime Talk focused on true crime. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. Please like the video. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about my opinion of whether Nicole Kessinger will ever be charged.